compliance with the open public meeting laws, I wish to state that on May 20th, 2022, the notice of meeting with the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official township bulletin board, the Upper Township website, mailed to the Cape County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the township clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded up to and until the village session portion of this meeting and will be available on the Upper Township website. I hereby direct this announcement to be made part of the minutes of this meeting. Would everyone please stand for the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Barbara, please call roll.
Mr. Cobb?
Here.
Ms. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Mr. Pankis?
Here.
Mayor Corson?
Present.
Members of President.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the May 8th, or excuse me, May 9th, I can't even read, regular and closed session minutes.
Second.
Please call roll.
Mr. Cobb?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pankis?
Yes.
Mayor Corson?
Yes.
Motion carried. In favor?
Hey, move the real report of governing bodies. Mark, you have the first.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I received a phone call on May 11th from a concerned citizen that there was a condition involving a drainage pipe down by Marshallville Pond. They had an issue with the lift gate and screen that had become unusable. It was allowing the road debris to go into the pond, and it was also causing a safety hazard. As I spoke to this individual, he indicated that this had been reported previously, but nothing was done. He felt that it went on deaf ears. So I got the business administrator involved, and Mr. Kazmarski also was involved with this, along with Mr. Reeves. And we got a corrective course of action to take care of this potential hazard underway. So hopefully that'll be taken care of with the warmer months coming up and the people using that pond for fishing and other things. I think it's good that we're taking care of it. Also, I want to let the public know that we're getting ready to, we're working with Rutgers to take care of their, the gypsy moth problem that we're having, as well as the lantern, there's lantern. Spotted lanternflies. So we're taking care of that. And also, Mr. Kazmarski, again, he's now in charge of code enforcement, which is good. So we have somebody that's dedicated to that, so hopefully we'll be rolling that enforcement plan out. I had the opportunity to visit Amanda's Field on Saturday with the doubleheader baseball game out there, as well as the lacrosse tournament that went on. It was very well attended. There was hardly any parking to be found out there. And I can't tell you how many comments I've had from people outside of Upper Township on the grounds, the facilities that we have out there. They're immaculate. So I want to thank Mr. Reed and his grounds crew as well for that.
Our crew does a spectacular job.
And that's it.
John, do you have any?
Nothing this evening.
Ken?
I have several things. I'll try to be as short as possible. First, I just want to thank the Blanche Adams and Steve Zellers from the Business Administration Association from sitting down with Gary and I this past week to talk about how we could get them more involved in our special events. I think we've come up with some good plans moving forward, as well as some ideas for how we could partner a little better on some other things. So thank you for taking the time to meet with us, and look forward to continuing that relationship. I want to give an update on the disc golf that we talked about last meeting. So Mr. Reeves and Mr. Adams, myself, and a few members of the community, we took about 2 hours of our day this past week to walk through the proposed course and sort of iron out some of the details there. There was a few minor changes, but I just want to let everybody know we're still moving forward with that plan, and probably a few weeks. We have to order a little more equipment, and we're still mapping out some of the course, but that is still moving forward. I just want to say thank you to Enchanted Florist for the beautiful bouquet that they delivered to Township Hall for one of our employees today. I had a very interesting opportunity last week also. There was a small group session hosted by the League of Municipalities with the New Jersey DEP Commissioner, Sean LaTourette. It was very informative. Jana Selka, who is the New Jersey State Director of the USDA, was also in attendance. They shared a lot of information about grant funding and things of that nature from both of their organizations that would suit us and our projects moving forward. I used the opportunity to sort of throw everything I could at him as far as, exit 20, sewers, things that are going on with our redevelopment plan. They were all very well received, and I'm very encouraged by his responses to everything that we have going on here. Lastly, I would like to just take a moment to acknowledge the passing of one of the prominent members of our community, Dr. Tom Henry. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional. Dr. Tom Henry passed away recently. For those of you who don't know of Dr. Henry, he was, as a long career, he was, I believe, the first president of Cumberland County College, if not one of the first. He also served in the Florio administration as a cabinet member there, as well as a long list of many accomplishments. On a personal note, his family, my family were very close when I was growing up in Sea Isle, so I just want to extend my condolences to his wife Loretta and his children Bridget, Tommy, Jimmy, and Michael. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Jamie, you have the floor.
Thank you, of course I do. First of all, I've been working with Committee with Pancakes about alleviating some of the traffic problems, what we can do as a committee with regard to traffic on, not necessarily Roosevelt Boulevard, but Township neighborhood, the Township streets next to Roosevelt Boulevard there. And working with the road department, we requested that some speed humps be placed on Randolph Boulevard to control the speed down there. That will take place whenever they get the time, hopefully in the near future. That is done. We're going to see how that does to slow down that traffic through there. Whether it work or not, speed humps work, so they will slow down in there. At least they will slow down in there. And taking off with what Committeewoman Hayes said, the community guide was absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate the effort that was put in regarding the Baltimore Fire Company 75th anniversary. Everybody knows that's near and dear to my heart. Also announcing that will be June 11th. One of these days I'll get all these dates right, which is coming up real quick. But it was just fantastic all the way around. Really appreciate that. We did have a busy weekend, emergency-wise. A lot of calls, a lot of heat, a lot of people in town. The traffic did back up on Roosevelt Boulevard for an hour or two, all the way around past the Catholic Church there. But as fast as it backed up, it was going. So it was just a quick hit in traffic. But that is what we can come to expect, regardless of what's going on. It's a sheer volume issue, and just hopefully some of these speed humps will eliminate people going through those neighborhoods to get around that traffic, which is virtually unavoidable. Lieutenant Road Captain probably attest to that it just was a pretty busy weekend for us all around in Upper County anyway, also Social City. Who do a lot of back and forth with. So I think that's it. Thank you.
All right. Couple things, parking enforcement is scheduled to start this weekend. They're going to be enforcing, obviously the parking on Stratford, parking program, and they should be doing some stuff at the ShopRite, the Acme Shopping Center for the fire zone stuff. Parking and fire zones seems to be a curious problem. So hopefully that can be addressed. We also were all invited to the Memorial Day celebration at William Godfrey Memorial Park in front of Osprey Point, Stratford. That's May 30th at 11 a.m. It's a very nice event put on by Osprey, and I believe this is probably 20-some years ago. And we also have an invite here, public announcement for the 33rd Annual Strawberry Festival and Craft Show at the Gamble Farmstead on Tyler Road in Greenfield. That will be Saturday, May 28th from 10 a.m. to approximately 3. So that's all I have at this time, so we'll move right on to our agenda here. Gary Marks, we have anything else?
Yeah,
expenditures and the projects that I've been working on for the last 2 weeks, Mr. Reeves was very kind enough to correct that drainage ditch on Cole. So the problem was is that the budget wasn't resolved and the cost of materials fluctuated so much that we couldn't actually order the grade until the budget was done. So that's a large hole for a public lake. We don't want the kids to go inside there. Working with property maintenance, both Committeeman Pankos and Deputy Mayor Newman. We have very strong codes within the township. So we have a good nuisance property code, and we also have a good property maintenance code. We're going to refine those codes a little bit to maybe shorten the timelines relative to how people have to cut their grass and kind of cut down 10 days upon 10 days upon 10 days, and then it's the end of the season and they didn't cut their grass. The nuisance property ordinances, again, those tend to happen after hours. Working with Deputy Mayor Newman, and we're trying to get some sort of 24-hour system in place where we can identify those properties. The two that we received this weekend were very receptive and very aware that there are some severe penalties relative to those properties. Mayor Corson and I have been working with the parking contingent that'll be down in Strathmere, along with the fire zones that are in some of the plazas. We're doing the signs. There'll be new signs so each street end will be solidified into a more aesthetically pleasing location. I had the pleasure of attending Committeewoman Hayes with the DEP relative to pitching exit 20. So this was a county a meeting, and each of the mayors and engineers sent a representative, and then we capitalized on our time for the exit 20 project. That exit 20 project, I know you want it within 30 days, but it started 30 years ago. All right, so the first ordinance or the first resolution that was presented by the committee was 1986. So, if I can get at least half the time that you gave the other committees, maybe 15 years, maybe we can move the project along a little bit. We are making good inroads. This is a multi-jurisdictional, multi-agency project, from the DEP to the Army Corps of Engineers, to the county, to the state, to the feds. It's not a municipal level project, and so we are making it. So we've had the ability to sit with the DEP director and hand him our request to look at that project and have it funded. It's in a long-range capital plan, but it's not funded. So they package it, put a nice cover on it, and then they let you sit there for the next 10 years. So we put some great pressure on. Tonight we put I also had the conversation with Committeeman Coggins relative to a court issue. We'll have that discussion in a later time in this meeting, but it was a very fruitful conversation with Committeeman Coggins. We're going to put all the administrative overviews in my motion, so we'll need a motion to carry those files. Additionally, we're going to change some. The mayor does the appointments. So we're going to take one individual wanted to leave the EMS committee.
The EMS hardship committee, yes.
And so it's going to be myself, CFO Barbara, and Committeeman Jay. With your approval, Mayor, we can either have that by motion, or you want a resolution.
By motion is fine.
My motion is fine, so.
Entertain a motion for that to happen after that. Megan McAfee's the one we're removing.
Yes, we're replacing Megan and putting Gary in her spot.
Second.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pankowitz?
Yes.
Mayor Corson? Yes. Ms. Carroll?
All right, Mayor, the only thing I will need is a motion to adopt those following reports, and that will close out that particular section.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Pankos?
Yes.
Mayor Corson? Carried. Nothing else being concerned, thank you.
Nothing this evening.
Just a couple of things, thank you, Mayor. First, just as a reminder, as you know, Deputy Mayor Newman talked about the summer season starting. So we have pike and plovers back on our beach, and possibly some of our first eggs of the season from the player out there. So again, we ask that no dogs be up on the beach, especially running loose in the north end, and no fireworks. So that human disturbance can really disrupt them, and we ask for everybody's cooperation in that effort.
And from what I understand, it's your public works goes to, or just north of Williams, I believe, so.
So we just, and especially as beach patrol starts, we got to be very cognizant of that area. I mean, they have the area roped off, so we just have to be cognizant to stay clear of those areas.
Have the lifeguards been notified?
I usually, they've sent their notice that they're going to be starting work this week, so that's usually when I did do I'll say a pre-season message to all the different departments, but I'll probably this week send out a reminder to all the departments about, our beach management plan and operations of how we should operate on the beach, especially now that we have nesting birds on the beach.
Last year we closed out one of the beach entrances because of the birds.
We actually had two of them. Seaview and Sea Cliff were both closed because of the nesting birds this year. This year, Seaview is already closed because of erosion, but we'll just continue to monitor and work with the DEP on if we need to close off Sea Cliff. If you recall, we talked about through the Sustainable Jersey, getting an EDF intern for the summer. We were approved to get that. I had a kickoff introduction meeting with that individual. He's actually going to be starting, he has 5 different municipalities he's going to be working with in South Jersey, and we're one of the communities. He's specifically going to be working on building emissions and energy usage, as well as our vehicle usage and fuel economies and those kinds of things. So he'll be doing a lot of reporting and then looking for different grants and different ways to improve energy usage. And that coincides with both meeting some of our Sustainable Jersey action items to hopefully increase our rating in Sustainable Jersey, as well as meeting some of our goals for plan endorsement. I do have another meeting set up with him in mid-June, but he'll be starting in the beginning of June, and we've already kind of sent him some of our utility bills and vehicle information so he can kind of get going on those things. And then the last thing I have is I just need to get authorization. The conference that I usually attend in October, the New Jersey Floodplain Association meeting, a 3-day conference. It's $360 because of the number of days and the cost. I need authorization from committee by motion to attend that conference, and that's where I get most of my CEUs for both floodplain manager and my professional engineering certification.
I'll make a motion to authorize.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Pankos?
Yes.
Mayor Corson?
And that's all I had to say.
Paul, one question. You had mentioned the beach erosion.
Yes.
What's our exposure now from the beach erosion after that storm? In terms of, is there any mitigation that we have to do? And if so, are there any cost estimates on it?
The erosion was not as bad as I thought. I mean, we lost width of beach, but there's not an extensive area of scarping that would have an immediate danger. There was some scarping in the middle of our beach, and not on the beach face itself, but we have those intermediate dunes that are out on the beach, so it's not the main frontal dune that's protected with snow fence and the dune grass. These are I'll say the mini dunes are out in front. Some of them have actually grown quite large in size, so there was some scarping on those dunes. So I've talked to Public Works about, as they've been, over the last week, been trying to reopen the beach crossovers and putting out the ADA, access mats, that they'll grade off those dune areas to make them safe for the start of the season. But as far as an estimate, I think I estimated close to about 50,000 cubic yards of sand loss during those recent set of storms that we just had.
Thank you.
Oh, I just wanted to say too, Commissioner Latourette did comment about how appreciative he was with your collaboration with his office through our plan endorsement. So I just wanted to make sure that that message got to you, and thank you also on behalf of the committee.
Thanks.
I want to also, Paul, I want you to realize that Paul does small grants and big grants. So Asbury Park got $1 million for some EV charging station, and Paul is spearheading some of the smaller grants for the flow systems. So those flow systems are smaller charging stations or smaller level 2 charging. But Paul has also been doing that this past week, so I've been watching the correspondences come back and forth between his compadres, so to speak, on that level, gaining those grants for us.
All good stuff.
Yes.
All right, Barbara, you're next.
I'd like to receive some.
All right, moving right along, I guess, yeah. Barbara, I guess you want to go with it?
Okay, we have the consent agenda. All resolutions listed below are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. If any member of the committee wishes a particular resolution to be considered separately, it will be removed from the consent agenda and acted on separately. Are there any resolutions in consent that you would like to have removed?
Go ahead, entertain a motion for consent agenda?
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pancras?
Yes.
Mayor Coulson?
Yes.
Carried. All in favor?
Okay, item number 21, Jay and I will have a conflict on that.
It's being postponed again.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I do have an update to share with the committee during closed session regarding some threatened litigation regarding this pending ordinance. And I would recommend that the committee postpone the public hearing on this ordinance until the next meeting in order to permit that discussion to occur.
I'll make a motion to postpone.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Abstain.
Mr. Pancras?
Yes.
And
Carried. In favor. Two abstentions to postpone to the June 13th meeting. Item number 22, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 13, 2022, and ordinance amending ordinance number 12, 2020, known as the salary ordinance for the calendar year 2021.
do my colleagues have a comment? Will we open the public? This time we'll open ordinance number 13 of 2022 to the public. If anyone has any comments on this ordinance, now open the public. Hearing no public comment, we'll close the public portion and entertain a motion for adoption.
Motion that we adopt ordinance number 13 of 2022.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pancras?
Yes.
Mayor Coulson?
Yes.
Carried. In favor. Item number 23, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 14, 2022, and ordinance revising job classifications and titles and amending Chapter 5 entitled Personnel in the Code of Upper Township.
Mr. Mayor, I've been advised by the administrator that there are some proposed amendments to that ordinance. And I would suggest that the committee hear Mr. DeMarzo's proposed amendments before taking action on this ordinance.
Do you have the red line? Does everyone have a copy of the red line?
Yes, so the committee members have been provided with red line versions of this ordinance 14-2022 with the proposed amendments. And just for the sake of procedural clarity, the amendments have not been formally proposed or accepted, the committee can either reject the amendments and approve the ordinance as originally drafted, or accept the amendments, or accept some version of the amendments. If any amendments are approved tonight by the committee, the ordinance may not be finally adopted tonight. It may be finally adopted at the next meeting after it has been republished.
And I'll read you the amendment. So the amendment was, this would add, this amendment added various positions to the code. This amendment is going to remove the position of Director of Public Safety as a list of new positions. So I would recommend that you consider this amendment and the removal of that title under 14.022.
Okay, I'll make that motion that we remove that, and correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be republished and re-agendized.
Yes, if the amendment is approved, the ordinance as amended will be republished by the clerk, and the ordinance will receive another reading at the next meeting, and public comment or public hearing on the amended ordinance can be postponed until the next meeting.
And on June 13th.
Correct.
I'll second that motion.
I guess we need to make that roll call.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes, yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pancras?
Yes.
Mayor Corston?
Yes.
Motion is carried, all in favor. Item number 24, public hearing and final adoption of ordinance number 15, and ordinance amending ordinance number 18, 2021, known as the salary ordinance for the calendar year 2022.
Mr. Mayor, I have very similar comments for ordinance 15-2022. Again, Mr. DeMarzo has proposed some amendments, which the committee has received and had a chance to review. I'll leave it to Mr. DeMarzo to review those amendments. However, if the committee accepts and approves the amendments tonight, again, the ordinance will not be finally adopted tonight, but will be republished for hearing at the June 13th meeting, at which time the public hearing will occur.
And this particular ordinance was some of the anomalies in the salary ordinance as part of the union contract negotiations. That's why it couldn't move forward that evening. So the change of the 2022 salary ordinance as part of the union contract negotiation, the proposed amendments would remove the position of public safety director, add the position of code enforcement officer and zoning officer part-time. I would further consider a motion for this ordinance as described, and I look for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Before we call, but this will not affect the pay of
This one does trigger the correct pay and payout for the union negotiation.
So we're still on.
You're still correct, and that's why we're doing it this way. Correct. Mayor,
If I can
that's
just add one more change, one more amendment, before the committee, it would be maintenance worker 1 grounds. It actually should be $60,490. So that's going to change by $1. It increases by $1.
I'll amend my motion to add the dollar.
I'll second.
All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pancras?
Yes.
Mayor Corston?
Yes.
Motion is carried. All in favor? Item number 25, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 16, and ordinance amending revised general ordinance, chapter 2, administration of the code of Upper Township. This is the first reading, and if you move forward with this, we've got a public hearing also on June 13th. That will work.
I'll move the introduction of ordinance number 16 of 2022 with a public hearing and final adoption for the 13th day of June 2022.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pancras?
Yes.
Mayor Corston? Item number 26, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 17, 2022, authorizing the sale of land for block 479, lots 70 and 72 to the State of New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Green Acres Program. And this public hearing on this would work well for the 27th
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance number 17-2022.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Pankos?
Yes.
Mayor Corson?
Yes.
Carried. Favor? Item number 27, regulation of seasonal units.
This was a carryover, and I guess it was the correspondences that we've all been receiving as the season ticks up. So, the nuisance houses, as I call them, and property code. And I've been working, the mayor gets them because he's the mayor, and then Jay gets them because he's public safety, and Committeeman Pankos gets them because Rich falls under public works. So it's just, again, we're going to have to continue to collaborate on the after-hours enforcement, not as much as the code, but as the nuisance process. That's what we
For the general public, what happened was, not taking anything away, Mayor, is we had several complaints and emails, concerns, emails about houses becoming or being Airbnbs, and there was no regulation or a thought process as to how we were going to control if there was a problem. So we, rather than go and create more law, Mr. Marzo's suggestion was, Gary's suggestion was that we already have a code that addresses this nuisance, nuisance property ordinance, and it's also in the zoning ordinances in the township. It's already there, it's just an enforcement issue. We have a new code enforcement officer now that falls under Public Works that is going to handle this. And like you said, we're talking about potentially the 24-hour problem. We might set it out there on a complaint and cite the properties and do what we have to do. So the takeaway from it is why create law because of this, but we already have it on the books.
And just for the record, the Airbnb problem is like an Animal House thing, and it's, seems to be mostly on the mainland. It's where the problems are. So, and that's just,
And Mayor, the code doesn't distinguish. Quality of life is quality of life. Whether it's a daily rental, weekly rental, of the books, whatever the dwelling is, you can't act in that manner, and it's very specific in your code.
yes.
Do any of these nuisance issues refer to noise? Because we may want to really take another look at our noise ordinance.
The noise is
and tighten
there,
it up
yes.
to make it enforceable, whereas we've had some issues in the past where we've had some very valid noise complaints from residents. And due to the way that the noise ordinance was structured, we never really had a method to enforce it. In fact, at one time, I believe there was a discussion between the township and the state's police, and the state's police had kind of come back to us and said, well, there's no definitive measure of what the noise levels can or cannot be in order to enforce that ordinance.
And the only agency that actually checks decibel reads is the county health department, and obviously they're 8 to 4, 9 to 5, I don't know, so it makes sense.
Well, I will tell you that, again, having some experience in this on the law enforcement side, your ordinance covers tumultuous and inappropriate behavior, which is ambiguous relative to the person that observes. So these type of ordinances don't necessarily have the ability to be a third party or second party ordinance on the LO, writing that. That person has to be at that location to make that determination, and they can issue that summons. And the way the ordinance reads, it's a 3-strike system with a very heavy penalty. So the courts will then determine whether the decimal level was correct or not correct. But absent of an actual meter, your ordinance specifically has procedures, it has caveats in there, and it has delineation relative to these actions. It just has to be enforced.
So thank you for that, and hopefully this will work out.
All right, it's a new business here.
Okay. Item number 28, Bruckner Chase, Ocean Positive, proposed grant for improvements to Beasley's Food Park.
So I can speak to this. So we had a meeting additional meeting with Ruckner Chase, who represents Ocean Positive. That's the group of para-athletes that utilize the Beasley's Point Park between, I guess, the end of April through early fall for water sports for paraplegics. They had received a grant from the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation, and they had approached us with some different things that they wanted to do there. They've already donated an additional wheelchair, some racks to store for them to be able to store some equipment, which the lifeguards were willing to share their shed there. Where we are now is the big request that they really wanted to put their money towards was a changing station for for their athletes. These athletes, suffer from skin conditions and pressure ulcers, so, riding home in wet clothing, sandy clothing, that kind of thing is creating issues for them. So with Paul's help, we've sort of designed something that is acceptable to county open space at this point, meets all the ADA requirements that we would need to meet. The problem is funding, so they have $3,000, we're at about $6,000 for total cost. Our Public Works is willing to do the man hours, so I guess I'm looking for committee to commit the additional $3,000 to be able to offer this. It would be used by the general public, it wouldn't just be for their athletes, everyone would be entitled to use it.
I think it's a good idea.
It is a good idea. Obviously, you have to probably borrow something out of the budget somewhere. And what are the longevity costs of maintaining this?
So it was part of the existing structure, it's sort of a build out from that building that's the electric building, sort of like looks like it's the tower there. So it's, Paul, you probably could speak to that a little more than I can. He said longevity costs for maintaining it, it's just really wooden siding.
Yeah, it's AZAC and, it's pretty weather-proof type material, so it's.
Is it going to have a shower?
No. I mean, part of the improvements that we're looking for with the grant with the county open space for like a phase 2 was we have the water bottle filling station over on that side is to put one of those, like a wash down station for your foot, and like a body wash down station. So it would not be no showers or anything inside. Just really just a small enclosure that has a bench in it that you can get inside and be able to close the door and have some privacy to change.
Do we have anybody full money?
We have not had that conversation. I wanted to bring it here and see if everybody was amenable to it first.
As long as we can find the funding,
Okay.
for it.
Okay, so Barb, maybe we could sit down and talk through that.
Would that be open to all of the public and all of us?
Yes. We probably should find the funding for the main motion. If Barb and I will work on the funding, and then we'll try to get a resolution on for next meeting. Okay.
You're not going to.
No motion.
Item number 29, amendment to the facility use ordinance.
So this one's also me. I'm keeping everybody busy tonight. So we have had 2 yoga businesses within the township. One that would like to do, I believe it's Sunrise Yoga in Strathmere, and another one who would like to utilize the Beasley's Point Park. The way that our facility use fees are structured at this point, they would not be able to really conduct this. It's not feasible for them. I think they charge about $20 a person, and we're looking at like $250 a day. So it sort of offsets it. So I had a couple members of the community reach out and ask if we could consider this like a community health initiative. So I guess I'm looking for some feedback from my colleagues, some thoughts that we've tossed around between Gary and Mr. Cole and I was maybe do like a one-time seasonal fee for them. Since it is a benefit to the community, we've talked with Craig, there's literally virtually zero impact as far as public works and staffing. They pretty much show up with their mats and leave nothing behind.
How many people do they anticipate?
I don't have the application in front of me, but I believe it was under 25.
We're, obviously, you said these are the points of Stratford, where in Stratford?
It was down closer to Whale Beach.
It says beach at Stratford.
Whale Beach, yeah.
So,
Not in the center of town. but-
and we probably should have a time frame on it too, or something like this. In other words, if you're say, well, we got this beach in Strathmere on July 4th weekend from, noon to 2. That's really not gonna work out.
Right.
You said sunrise, right? So,
Yeah.
well, I'm guessing by 9 o'clock, but yeah.
Yeah, it was like an early morning. Was the idea.
But how do we address other for-profit organizations who may want to use our facilities? In other words, the guys who want to do soccer training and they want to have a soccer camp and they want to charge, $250 a week for the camp for the kids. Do we treat them the same way, or are we making a special exception for yoga?
Right.
Since it's one
I
individual.
agree, and that's sort of why I wanted to bring it to everybody here, because it's hard to pick and choose. How do you say, well, you can make a profit and we're not gonna charge you, or you can't? But the only difference I would say is that there virtually is no impact. When they do soccer camps and things like that, our buildings and ground crew is out there for days before and days after.
Yes.
So that's the one thing. I mean, it isn't a cost to the township.
Well, what if somebody wanted to sell cotton candy on the beach, or sell hot dogs at Beasley's Point? You're looking at somebody who's an individual. What if you had somebody who wanted to give kayak lessons at Beasley's Point, or surfing lessons in Strasbourg?
Certainly, let me just, that does happen.
But let me just, so what we're talking about, Committeeman Coggins, is the fee schedule, right?
Yes.
So the ambiguous what ifs and what if nots can play a part if you want to rebuild the fee schedule with those elements in your fee schedule. So what we're proposing at this point, what I can point to in committee, is the chapter and the verse and the fee schedule that these things are set by. And so all you're really looking at is changing the numbers in the ordinance from $200 per session to $200 per month. That's specifically what you're going to be asked to change. If you're building a new, which is a great point, for different venues and different sports or activities, that's a completely different conversation to what the ordinance allows you to do already. So the price point for this particular is $200 a day for a half-hour session. If they want to do it 3 or 4 times, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, you're talking $1,000.
Yes.
Okay, so just keeping it in line with the agenda item, it's the fee schedule, and I can forward that fee schedule to you, and then you can kind of look.
No, I
at
actually saw it online, so
Okay.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about. But once again, my question is, let's just take somebody who wants to give kayak lessons or perhaps sailing lessons that would have very little, if no more impact than this on our beaches and facilities. Would we restrict those people from performing their activity that would enable them to make a profit and allow somebody who is doing yoga to do it? Well, I just want to make sure that
No, it's a good question.
if we're going to do something,
That's why I brought
that
it,
we're,
honestly, it's because it's
that we're
hard
fair and
to.
equitable to everything.
Right, it's hard to pick and choose, and how do you say you
Yes.
can.
So the same events doing as less impact, do they also get the discount relative to the?
We're here because they asked.
That's
If they
right.
didn't ask and they just did it, we would probably never come back.
Sure. So now what do? We give them the leave and encourage people to ask? Or do we say no and then we have people encouraged not to ask? It's sort of a catch-22.
So our fee structure right now says it's $200 a day.
Yes, every time.
And that's obviously they have 25 people doing yoga, and everybody has to only have $10 every time they come to rent the food, to drive the hot dog to their yoga. So I see both sides of that.
Right, that's exactly where my decision-making came
Well,
from.
or the yoga, or the yogi, whatever that person would be called, could not take a fee for themselves, and the $10 per person would go towards paying the daily fee for the use of the facility.
Right. Except they wouldn't make a profit on their business, and that's the problem.
Right, and that's the issue,
That's why we're here.
yes.
That's why we're here.
I think
Is it 1 day a week or 1 day?
I don't know that.
7 days a week or?
I don't know that.
I mean, if there's 7 days a week and with 20 different people, 3 days a week or whatever, I mean, it's,
still, that's not really not really our concerns, our
But that's-
concerns now and in the future
to set the fee, if it's 1 day a week, we're going to set it as a monthly fee, it's one thing, but if it's 7 days a week or 5 days a week, and we're going to set a monthly fee, it should be different, if it's going to be more impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that, but let's go, okay, so say you're $40 a day instead of
Because
$200.
there's no one at the end of the day, it's gonna have low impact, they're all gonna have their smoothie cups and their latte cups and all that stuff that's gonna be their beach can on the way out.
They bring reusable bottles of water usually.
I just, it just is it's probably something we need to look at, those guys. I hate to deny this, because harm in asking is.
It is a great thing for us to have in the township, and that's sort of the.
I think the health outweighs the $200.
Let's make this simple here, how about we authorize Gary and Kim to come
Figure
up
this out.
with time on all these things, how much actual use it is, authorize them to negotiate, and can we pull everybody on the committee, or before now, the next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I think that works.
Well, you're not proposing a special meeting?
No.
So I see, so you're,
If they,
We'll spearhead it, and then Gary will.
call everybody, get a general consensus, and have it approved for the next meeting.
so what I would suggest, in order to make sure we're being very safe under the Open Public Meetings Act, is essentially, the committee members are not permitted to confer with one another, but Gary is certainly free to communicate to you, and so to the extent that Kim and Gary are able to put together a proposal, that could certainly be forwarded to all of the committee members, not for discussion, just for review and consideration. So that is how I would suggest we proceed, but
That's where I'm headed.
we have to avoid anything, anything that looks like a vote would not be permitted without following the special meeting requirement.
So the actual decision would be made next meeting, but Gary and I will do the legwork, and everybody will have a chance to review it beforehand.
Correct.
And Dan, a question for you would be, maybe you could research, where do we draw the line in terms of who can be allowed to do the same thing with a similar, you know,
To
and
ensure
I keep going back to kayaks or canoes or something like that. That's something that's very healthy. I mean, it's exercise, it gets people out, sunshine.
I would be happy
So-
to do some research on that. I would say, if it makes sense to you, I would take my direction from Kim and Gary on what they would look for. I think equal treatment is certainly a legitimate and valid goal. I would say with township property, you have some leeway and discretion in what you can do, especially because your fee schedule is not going to prevent anyone from being able to use the township property at all. It's a question of feasible economic use.
Correct, and let me just throw this in there, so your fee from a revenue stance is different than a parking meter fee. So if your parking meters are bringing in $800,000, $900,000 a year in revenue that you're putting into your budget, it's different than $2,000 or $3,000 you may be collecting for your, these type of usage fees. And so the conversation might be incidental once you see the revenue is generating and you're saying, what are we fighting over, $1,000? What's the difference? So if we don't make $1,000, we make $500, but we open it up to greater usage for kayaks or frisbees.
Yes.
The usage fees were put in place in for control for one person, but we also had two semi-pro football teams that were playing at the time and actually tearing up our fields.
Correct.
And that's why the fees were put in place, because it was based on the wear and tear on our sports complexes. And I don't think teachers were taken into consideration, but I mean, a lot of time and money was put in by our public works on maintaining our fields. And in one event, they were shredded. So that's why the fees were put in place, if I remember correctly.
And maybe the fees were indicative of that particular event.
Yes.
And do we get into an issue where we have a group of residents who may be using the beach, and all of a sudden it's yoga time? Do we make those people get up and move?
Well, I think the yoga people are going to work about, so somebody starts fishing, obviously they can't get in this summer. They might attract fishermen, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just bring out your nets, and like everybody can just join in.
The dialogue is very.
Okay, so I think we have a good plan for that going forward. We'll come back.
Item number 30, for Township of Ocean City Municipal Alliance, DMHAS grant.
Go figure, this one's me too. So this is an easy one. So our Municipal Alliance Coordinator, Larry Cole, reached out to me about this. It's grant funding for substance abuse education for youth. Specifically, they'll partner with Cape Assist to, I believe it was, dangers of vaping was number 1 on their list. There's no matching funds for the township. He just wants us to agree to allow him to go through with the grant application.
I'll move that.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Panford?
Yes.
Mayor Corson?
Yes.
Carried.
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated in full in the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Mr. Coggins?
Yes.
Mr. Shea?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Panford?
Yes.
Mayor Corson?
Yes.
Carried.
This time, we're going to open it up to the public. Is there anyone in the public who would like to address us? Please come up to the mic.
Good evening. Joe Falls, 3 Bay Air Road. I just want to say thank you for all the work you guys do. You guys do a great job in our community. I do have some stuff to pass to you guys if I'm allowed to step forward. It's basically just resolutions for other jurisdictions for Airbnbs. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Give it out. You said you were, Bay Area.
Just hand it to the clerk.
Right there.
Thank you.
Obviously, you're, one of the properties that joins the nuisance property. Yes.
All right, so I'm here tonight to explain my situation and concerns with the current property and management status at 6 Bay Air Road. As you may know, or been informed, it has been turned from a quiet home of a smaller family into a rental property that consists of up to 12 people every 3 days. This is extremely concerning because of all the problems that are arising on a local level, nationwide, globally, and locally with Airbnbs and short-term rentals. I've owned my home for about 9 years now. The street has been nothing but waves to all the neighbors and knowing and chatting with them. But after the continuing fight to keep the entertainment venue and its guests out of our quiet cul-de-sac neighborhoods, we are now plagued with strangers coming and going directly across the street with no rules or regulations set forth until something bad possibly happens. Just the third week of rentals proven true of all the nonsense that could come. I have my own personal security cameras that proven true of the nice families littering in the street, making Bay Air drag racing track, and with a nice day and the windows down in the home, the loud music and cursing as the party continued. I please ask that as a committee, you formulate a plan to stop the short-term rentals and the upcoming problems that will occur all across our city of Upper that you are representing. I changed the safety status of myself and home. This is a residential neighborhood, full of families, and I'm sure yours are also. Authorities say when you see something, say something. Well, this is that. My mental health and safety are being compromised. This is a business benefiting only one side, the hotel owner. Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions for Joe?
I just want to let you know I did address that particular owner. All right, he was notified. He's notified under our property nuisance code. And again, even though Jersey City or some of the other, or Linwood puts a 30-day to 60-day, doesn't make the tenant any more amenable to the rules of people. So when they come down on vacation and they act like knuckleheads, then you have to have the enforcement to take care of it. So whether they're there for a week, whether they're there for a day, whether they're there for a month or a year, you can't act that way. And under the code of Upper Township, you can't act that way. So my question to you is I hear that recital, did you call the state police?
No, sir. No, sir.
Did you, why?
That's a good question.
All right, so it starts with a non-biased view of the activity.
Okay.
So you call the cops and they come in, and we can use that on our code to bring the guy to court. I did call the gentleman, code called the gentleman, and we told him it's one strike. That's it. There's enough evidence here for us to put you on that 3-strike, your $7,500 in the whole motion. But my ask of the community is that if you have one of those problems, even though you don't have a Upper Township Police Department, you pay for state police. And when that blue pant, yellow man stripe comes to your door, it's over. So drag racing, underage drinking, excessive tumultuous behavior, all can be documented by the state police. We had a problem with the Amanda's Field. Our superintendent contacted the state police, and we drilled down on who those knuckleheads were. I ask you to do the same thing and to continue to communicate with me as whoever that resident was eloquently did. And I sent her our code, and I sent her a phone number, and I sent her the ability to contact me 24/7 to identify that problem. If was that the first time they had a problem with that location?
This is, I believe this is probably the 6th week of rentals.
Is that the first time they had a problem with that rental?
I wouldn't even call it a problem, it's just more of a nuisance that is gonna destroy
We're dancing
our.
in semantics. Was this the first time that they had a problem at that property?
It's a quality of life issue, I think is what you're saying.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you give me 2 more, and he's in court. Upper Township doesn't have a mercantile license as some of the other municipalities do. Jersey City, Linwood, City of Wildwood. We can go and revoke their mercantile license, revoke their fire permits, and hit them that way. You guys have a very nice, quiet town and don't have those items in place that we can revoke. But what we can do is enforce the ordinances that are in place and have teeth. So
It's actually, I'm reading it from some of these, and I thank you for getting this for us too. This is gonna, I mean, I'm just real quick, I won't break down to you. And it basically stops the short-term rentals. And it does have an exception for credit robbers. And it is with the Airbnb and the internet, everything's, all this happens with no realtors too. So there's no person to call, there's no point of contact. So it is an ongoing problem. And the tenants here from the Woodlawn Crowd, so I hope you're.
I couldn't speak any better than when there's a problem, call. For one day, don't say you don't want to bother us, we're there 24/7.
Thank you very much.
And it's, obviously, you heard it's a fair avenue, so I mean, if we can just get a couple wide body areas, that might kind of protect them. But this is something that we probably need to really look at, and you probably didn't find too many ordinances out there, because this is kind of pretty much a new concept.
Yes. I believe that EHT just acted on one as well. That is not included in that packet as well.
I think what you already said, we got the stuff in place now, it's just a matter of enforcement.
We got stuff in place.
We gotta make a phone call.
We got stuff for the animal house stuff, and we're using some properties, but we don't have anything that actually prohibits
sure we do. It's in the code.
the short-term rentals.
Not short-term rentals, but any activity.
Yes.
Tumultuous or whatever.
Yes.
That, you know.
Yes.
The curtail is, the curtail is running and leasing the front yard property, calling the same material, located primarily in residential neighborhoods, and short-term rentals. I mean, that's pretty, and it does accept that for Predator Islands, because obviously on the Predator Islands, we do have leasing rentals. And
But they're subject to the same ordinances that are over here. Their tumultuous behavior, we don't.
Yes, but traditionally, the weekly rentals on the Barrier Islands are handled through a real and not necessarily a like the Airbnb online, and, you know, a ghost landlord, and people don't always know who's done it. And when you buy on a very rare, you expect the weekly rentals, you anticipate that. When you buy on the mainland, in the neighborhood, in the subdivision, like, let's say your house, you don't anticipate a new neighbor every week.
It still gets back to no matter what, okay? So we banned, so if we put an ordinance together, we said, another law in the books, and said, okay,
Yes.
here's an Airbnb, we're gonna ban Airbnbs. Well, how are we gonna enforce that? There you go. It just comes down to enforcement. Let's enforce what we have, and if that's not enough, and we find out what we teeth, then we can go ahead and, we did get one or two letters, and now we have a complaint that came to township committee. So what we need to know is we need to know when it happens. Next time, obviously call 911. They got a problem.
Well, there's actually, would that be an emergency, or should I use non-emergency?
So would my videos, surveillance videos stand up for strike one, strike two, and strike three?
On summonses, it requires a summons, not a warning, it requires a summons, it requires a conviction in court. And most of the trooper will let you know, we've all done this job, that's kind of what it needs. And it, you know, the same rules revolve around you. You miss a mortgage payment, Vito doesn't come and throw you out of your house. There's a process for that. So you have to understand, and I think what I made that Bel Air owner, what is it?
Bay
Bear owner know, this is it. This is the new way of doing it. The same thing with property maintenance with people that have their third or fourth house that can't afford to cut their lawn. Nobody wants to hear it on your fourth house. You can't afford to cut your lawn. Right?
Agreed.
So it's the same thing with this gentleman. I will bet you a sandwich that'll be a different residence next week. So we both get to eat if I lose it. So, but I will bet you that he was well aware. He was forwarded the copy of the ordinance, and I'm trying to find it on the little tiny thing. But before you leave tonight, I'll get your email, and I will send you that municipal code.
Thank you very much.
I believe it's going to be a different
I do want to add that I'm not looking to go to court. I'm not looking to, battle with people. I'm just looking for our board to stop stuff before it happens. I do have a boat in the driveway. What if I come home and, the fish finder's gone, the engine's taken off, things happen. And it's never been a problem on our street, and I don't want it to be a problem. So before it does be a problem, I just ask that maybe we consider what other jurisdictions are considering, and put it in forth, enact.
So would this be something that we should ask the planning board to maybe take a look at?
So we were told to come to you guys, not to,
This is more,
I mean, if we're talking about putting,
It's going to start with you guys as far as it's a property regulation, not a zoning issue.
well, because that's what these are all, we're talking about zoning and code and.
but this, no, Joe, I want to thank you for coming out and actually, but you do have surveillance footage.
yes.
Is it saved in the cloud or anything like that?
I videotaped it on my phone and then saved it, yes. So it will be on the cloud.
If something is perfect, you could actually export it to, carry it, the email form and all that. State police makes their job a lot easier. If there's a complaint, there's videos.
Great.
Makes things a lot simpler.
Yes, very true. Thank you very much for your time. Is that all for me? And I do appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I'd like to get your email so I can forward you the same email that I sent the other residents in that area.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Blanche Adams, Steelman Town, and representing the Upper Township Business Association tonight. So I just wanted to thank Committeewoman Hayes and our business administrator, Gary, for our meeting that we had with Steve Zellers, who's our current president. It was very productive, and it was so nice to have the continued support of the committee for our Upper Township businesses. We really appreciate that. We talked about a couple of things that we will be working on. One of the things that we talked about was celebrating and highlighting our businesses. So I'm happy to say that we have on deck a business who wants us to celebrate their grand opening, and that will be sometime mid-June. And it's a business going into Cedar Square, which is really exciting. As you know, we all like to see that. So we'll be in touch soon, but that's just a great example of the partnership that we're going to continue. A ribbon cutting ceremony with the Township Committee people and with the Business Association. So just thank you for your continued support and keeping the lines of communication open. Appreciate that.
Hi, good evening. Appreciate everyone's time tonight. My name is Caitlin Quirk, and I live at 7 North Shore Road, Memora. My fiance, Andrew Lewis, and myself purchased the property in January of 2021, but I have lived in the area since 2012 when I opened my first business in Ocean City. I'm here tonight in regards to the now vacant gas lot at the northeast corridor of Roosevelt Boulevard and Route 9, which is listed for sale. The property abuts our property, so we obviously are interested in its fate. It is our understanding that in the past there has been some interest within the township in the site being turned into a small community park. I just wanted to come before the committee tonight to go on record saying that Andrew and I strongly support this initiative approach to the site. We have several friends with young families in Beasley's Point, and we all agree that this would be a beautiful accent to the entrance to the neighborhood, as well as perfectly complementing the Beasley's Point Beach project, which everyone was thrilled with. In addition to the beautification aspect, a park could help alleviate the traffic issues that occur at that corner, which I can attest are frequent. It is our understanding that several grant opportunities through the state that there are several grant opportunities that the state through the state that the municipality could take advantage of, and it should be considering if it should consider purchasing the property itself. We believe a park and a bike path would be in line with the township's master plan, and Andrew and myself would love to help in any way that we can. Thank you for your consideration.
Just so you know, that's on the radar. Route 9 and Roosevelt, right?
Yes.
That was actually on the radar for county open space money. Am I right? At one point.
Weren't they going to donate it to
At one point, they were looking to donate it to us, but we were unsure of the final cleanup costs, and they have since kind of felt they concluded the cleanup requirements of the DEP, so they put it on the market to try to sell it as opposed to making a donation to the township.
Yes, so it's on the radar. There was, at the time they were trying to give it to us, there was some environmental issues that were still outstanding. So, do we know what's on the market?
Well, so we did speak to the lawyer that has the property, and I know that they just changed some of the structure of the property, where they would take ownership for the lifetime of the property for remediation. So that kind of is what, from my understanding, was their initial kind of kick in the butt to actually put it on the market. I think it's listed in the $600,000 range right now, which is higher than we would like it to be, but such is the market, right?
Actually, what's on our radar before we can get back on the radar? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Barbara Leary, Seaville. I'm going to make a comment tonight, and I've written it out because I want to make sure I get in within the 5 minutes. So For the past couple of months, there's been quite a bit of public discussion regarding the newly appointed temporary administrator, Gary DiMarzo. My comments tonight are regarding the roles and responsibilities of the Upper Township Committee and its hiring practices. Mr. DiMarzo may or may not be the most qualified person for this position, but we, the taxpayers who fund the salaries of township employees, will never know if you, our committee, secure the best candidate. The administrator position is so critical for a local community that the New Jersey League of Municipalities offers a 28-page recruitment guideline for selecting a local government administrator. And I quote from the introduction. Recruiting and selecting a local government administrator is one of the most important responsibilities of a local governing body. It requires careful planning, astute evaluation of candidates, and a clear understanding of the relationship between the local government and the administrator. An organized approach and strong, consistent leadership from the local governing body are essential to the recruitment process. Without them, recruitment can damage the image of the local government, divide the local government and the community, weaken the authority of the government, erode the responsibilities associated with the position, and hurt the ability of the local government to attract and retain good candidates for this and other administrative positions." End quote. In 2016, Middle Township posted publicly a candidate search with detailed requirements for a full-time business administrator. Shouldn't we have expected this in Upper Township at a minimum? The taxpayers should direct their frustration at Township Committee. Except for Mr. Coggins, not one member of the committee demonstrated concern about the need for the position and the hiring of the new administrator, Gary DiMarzo. When pressed by Mr. Coggins and residents during public comments at meetings, Mayor Corson, committee members Kim Hayes, Jay Newman, and Mark Pankos said little and demonstrated a lack of transparency with this position and the job hiring. Residents were given no public posting of the position, no job requirements, and there was no formal interview process. Additionally, no resume or list with Mr. DiMarzo's qualifications were made available to the taxpayers after his hiring. What we do know is what Mr. DiMarzo told us. He got this opportunity due to a referral. We do not know who made the referral and who the referral was directed to. Mr. DiMarzo had an opportunity and he took it. Upper Township residents have continually requested details about the position and the hiring. Committee has been given ample opportunity to clearly inform the public, but is not. I show up, I speak up, and I listen. I go home and I think about what is being said and done. I have lost faith and wonder what is true and what is not. As residents, what sources do we have to get accountability so that we can trust and believe in the integrity of our local government? There are several state and local agency listings that are available to the public. It's not an easy process, and one can easily give up. I'm invested in our community. I care. I have started the process and reached out and spoken to a detective from the New Jersey Office of Public Integrity and Accountability. I presented a timeline of committee actions and public concerns. As a summary of our conversation, he recommended contacting the Cape May County prosecutor regarding the hiring practices in Upper Township. I hope I am not alone and ask all residents to call into question the hiring practices of our Upper Township Committee. The detective provided the phone number 609-465-1135. Although he was not certain of the exact name of the unit at the prosecutor's office, he said to ask for the unit contact that handles public corruption. Since we are not getting the answers at our public meetings, I hope you will turn frustration into positive action and will speak up and make a call to restore trust in our agreement. This is our town, our tax dollars, and our responsibility. I ask that our community gets involved and ask about the hiring practices in Upper Township. Thank you.
James Berger, 7 Ella Lane, Petersburg. On a lighter note, I'd like to bring some attention to Saturday's events for Amanda's Field. I volunteer, my wife volunteers for the lacrosse program, and they're trying to do a lot of nice things and bring that program up to standards that you can be proud of. That place was packed this weekend, and to hit on Mark's, Mr. Pankos's earlier comment, there were so many people there that said what a great event it was, and we're very proud. And I want to give a lot of credit to the Public Works Department. So much so that yesterday my wife was there with my other kids doing additional trainings, and she walked around with a trash bag and cleaned up trash because she didn't want the township to think that they were unappreciative. We got a lot bigger turnout than what we thought. So this is the reason why my wife and I chose this township, because of what you guys and what the previous committee have turned this community into. And I just wanted to remind you that the public has already spoken in electing the people that are sitting up there now. I voted for your predecessors. I voted for you. I have a lot of faith that you're going to do great things. And Mr. DiMarzo, good luck with your new endeavor. I hope you support this committee and keep up the township great. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you.
Janice Connell, 1808 Commonwealth Avenue. I'm the president of the SIA, Stratton Improvement Association. I have some really exciting news that I'd like to share with the committee. Last Tuesday, we unveiled 2 new interpretive signs at the pathway to the entrance to Corson Inlet State Park. And these signs commemorated 2 really important milestones for SIA. The first being the 70th anniversary, and the second a milestone birthday, which I think I'm not going to say here, for our past president, Linda Carter Bateman. The Carter family donated funds towards this, and the SIA matched, and that's how these signs were funded. The interesting thing, and the thing that we find really exciting, is they're absolutely beautiful. They describe Strathmore's role in the Atlantic flyway for migratory birds, and then the second sign describes our 12 endangered species that we find in Strathmore's natural area. And we intend to use them while we expand our Piping Plover project, which is public outreach on educating folks about our nesting birds and how important it is to make sure that we do everything we can to have the eggs hatch. So I want to say thank you very much, Paul Dietrich, for the reminder. It's absolutely important that we have no dogs on the beach near these endangered species nests, and fireworks are another thing. They're very sensitive, and these birds are very tiny. You can barely see them. They look like a little fluff ball. And when they're first born, they're just minuscule. We have bands of volunteers that are out there on the beach educating people, talking to people about the dogs, and telling them to take their dogs off the beach if they're there, educating the kids about frisbee flying and the like. And so these signs are really going to be helpful. We're going to have laminated cards to utilize as part of that public outreach, and we're really, really excited about it. The unveiling, there were folks from the New Jersey DEP who we worked with. I know that the Fishing Club are going to provide signage as well for that project, and we're really excited. And I'm sorry that, Mayor, you were unable to join us, but it was great.
I have seen the signs, they're actually spectacular, they're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. We are really proud of them, we really are. I'd like to also speak to the issue of the yoga on the beach. I will communicate through, our means to reach our SIA members and encourage them to watch the video so that they have an understanding of the discussion around the fees and, the purpose of having, commercial ventures on the beach, and if they have comments or whatnot, to reach out. The other thing I'd like to say or mention is the discussion around the noise ordinance. We are aware that there is an existing noise ordinance, and in the past, I think there's been some discussion about not only lack of enforcement for that ordinance, but many other ordinances. But what I hear today is that the state police, if they receive complaints on ordinance issues or potential ordinance violations, regardless of what they are, the state police will respond. That is Thank you very much. That is.
They're not going to respond to every ordinance. They'll come to noises and all that. They're not going to come if there's no subject property or somebody has to mow their grass. That's not their, they're not going to do that.
We'll respond to public safety complaints if the ordinance is applicable, and we'll take an enforcement action. If it goes to the township for code enforcement and so forth, then that will be done.
And I also was speaking to other ordinances, and I agree, the nuisance property is more or less noise from parties or belligerent behavior or language or the like is what, the citizens of Strathmore are worried about. But there's also been incidents where folks have called for various things, like underage drinking or, that sort of thing, dogs on the beach. So the you will.
Actually, I don't control the dogs who handle the dogs on the beach.
Oh, and
I don't think you want to respond to that.
I mean, in the totality of the circumstances, dogs, some along those lines, then that's again, if it goes into a public safety issue, then.
Okay, great.
You don't want to respond to somebody's walking their dog and their husband on the beach. That's not.
No. I understand. It's was more towards Paul's, with our nesting birds, how critical that is. And sometimes, the lifeguards' main focus is to keep their eyes on the water, and that detracts from what they are charged with. So, I appreciate the fact that they will be aware and do what they can about the dogs. But again, I just wanted to confirm that the state police will be more responsive to some of the complaints or concerns.
And actually, I believe some of our parking enforcement can't really handle the noise or any of that.
They can still document, and again, we have New Jersey State Police. I was a member of Club Gert myself, so I mean, they will call, they will respond, they'll make the determination whether it's warranted for an officer to come out. We'll document.
That's great. And one other point in the discussion about the noise ordinance, my understanding is that the state of New Jersey has a technical enforceable noise ordinance that deals with decibel levels during certain times of the day, and that the county enforces that, and that actually does happen in Upper Township.
It's very difficult to use decibel levels, and we've tried it in different municipalities, and it's almost like pornography. You'll know it when you see it. So when you go out to a house and they're hanging out the windows and they're up and down the streets and they're drinking, and that's what triggers this ordinance. So it's ordinance 3-1.3, substantive complaints relative to seasonal residents. In 1 year, there shall be 3 or more complaints on a separate occasion of disorderly, indecent, tumultuous, or riotous behavior shall trigger the process. That's it.
Right.
It's there, and so, I mean, it goes back to where you have to, goes back to committee, where the committee can actually require a bond for the property owner to utilize his own property. I mean, it's got the teeth. I mean, you just have to be able to document it, use the state police, use our resources, and close those properties down. And maybe this particular meeting, when they watch, will let the public know that it's not going to be tolerated.
I think I absolutely agree. I think that's fabulous. I think that's great that it will be enforced. My point there was, and you cannot enforce that type of noise with decibels. And so I was more referring to the fact that we do enforce a measurable standard for noise. The county does that for us. And that's complete, and I was actually making your point, it's separate from those types of complaints, which now rely on the state police to, as you say, document and issue violations or whatever.
Correct, it works.
Great.
The process works when you call.
I think that's great.
I think we agree that it's there, and let's try for this season.
Okay. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. I hope I didn't overstep.
You're good.
Natalie Neese, Block 476, Lot 29. I'm curious, who oversees public safety?
Public safety is Deputy Deputy Mayor here.
So we don't have a public safety officer at all?
Oh, we don't have a public safety director.
We've never had.
You won't have one either because the ordinance got changed.
I thought, some time ago, we did have a public safety director.
I want to say not in the last 25 years, no more.
Okay. The agenda for tonight had a public note or comment, I'm curious, what is the ordinance for the 5-minute rule?
5-minute rule has been a resolution that's been memorialized, it just wasn't ever dictated on the agenda. So that's always been in place. The clerk has always had a copy at her desk. And if you want the resolution number, what's the resolution number?
It's 13, 2022.
So since the year 13.
I believe it's a resolution.
No, it's a resolution.
Each year. Oh, each year.
Yeah.
Next year is resolution 13 of
Passed in the
2022.
reorganization.
It's adopted our reorganization meeting every year.
Okay, and what I heard about the Bear Road, the Airbnb, some years ago, I had opportunity to speak with community affairs at the state level, and that is definitely a zoning violation in the residential zone, and they should be told to go for a zoning variance. You can't run a motel in a residential zone and charge $319 a night. And the issues of parking on the grass and up and down the street, let alone the noise, the meters on the house, if there's a fire or if there is narcotics there for the weekend, I mean, it's a real public safety hazard. And also, I believe the state has a regulation that if you rent your home in this township and you do not live in it, you have to be registered with the clerk's office that it's a rental. So maybe some Airbnbs have the owner living in the house. I don't know, but there's a difference. So I would suggest that you consider a zoning violation.
If it's applicable, we'll address it.
I have my concerns, A through E, and I decided to photocopy them and give them to the Upper Township Committee, the mayor, and to Dan Reeves, the solicitor, due to the 5-minute regulation. A is my correspondence to Mr. DiMarzo on 5-3, copied to the mayor and received in the clerk's office on 5-3 with the enclosures. B is a public law firm letterhead copy. King Barnes, I believe Jeff Barnes is our planning and zoning lawyer. He's in partnership with Richard King. C is my OPA request number 57, 2022. It was redacted. No Jeff Barnes invoices were provided to me on 5/13. Barbara Young, clerk correspondence. D is Spec of Justice in West Wildwood, 5/12/22, Atlantic City Press article for your information. And E is the Dresdner Robin correspondence, 9/11/2013 to 100 Dennisville, Petersburg Road, Block 476, Lot 17, regarding the contamination that I talked about at the last meeting. If I could just pass them up.
Thank you. Is there anyone else comment? Hearing no more public comment, I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I hereby move that a resolution be incorporated into the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter into an executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. The matters are personnel, contract negotiation for the following: resiliency planning, video recording services, shared service agreements with Corbin City for EMS services and EMS billing, shared services with Corbin City for municipal court services, contract negotiation for recycling dumpster, wastewater treatment, and redevelopment agreement. Also litigation for zoning permit denials. I also include in my motion the estimated time and circumstances under which the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee that the public interest will no longer be served by such confidentiality. With respect to employment and personnel matters, such discussion will be made public if when formal action is taken or when the individuals involved consent that it can be made public. With respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. With respect to litigation matters, such discussion will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Second.
Mr. Coggan?
Yes.
Ms. Hayes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Pankhurst?
Yes.
Mayor Corson?
Yes.
Everyone's gotta go out of the room anyway.
Joe, I guess you can give Gary your email.
Yeah, Joe, don't leave